Hello?
What up, man?
All right, here we go. Curtis Daniel, aka Fritty. Look, what's going on?
Oh, man, chilling, man. Taking it light, man.
Cool. So I want to welcome you as a guest for the first time on the Spartan Dawg Podcast. You've done, I think, 13 episodes, and I've listened to all of them. And what I want to do before we get started is I want to give you your roses because I think that a lot of people don't realize a lot of the stuff that you do. And me knowing you, you ain't the type to pound your chest and try to give yourself credit or any of that. So I'm gonna be the one to do that for you.
Appreciate it.
So, so you got the Spartan Dog dinner that you have every year at homecoming. That's been what, 6 years going now.
Yeah,
A lot of people probably don't know that it was your idea to start the Spartan Dog group on Facebook,
right.
correct?
Yeah,
So outside of Fritty Lope, I recognize you as the bridge and the glue. So can you tell me a little bit about, why that is? I think the main thing that I'm trying to get at is that a lot of people when they get to a certain level, they get selfish and they forget, but you don't have any problem empowering people. And in fact, you like empowering people, not just with the Spartan Dog group, but anybody who's close to you. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah. So I appreciate that. The dinner, really, it's kind of like I'm from out of town, and so it's an investment to come back to campus. I mean, especially if you come with your wife and kids. The football game, I felt like we can watch that on TV or listening to it on the radio, but the whole reason is trying to come back, trying to connect with, former players and friends and stuff like that. And I always just pay attention to situations. And being in the music industry, I always say it's two main gathering points that cross racial lines, age, and everything, and it's food and music. And I just noticed that, at the beginning of the game, people are rushing to get to their seats and parking, and you can't really hold a real conversation on the sideline, and then we in different seats. And then after games, I just always noticed that all the people was going to different places to eat, but we never was together. So I figured that, instead of complaining about it and waiting for the football program or some alumni association trying to put something together, that I thought it was worth the time and effort and the money to rent out a room so that we can have a place to on campus. Not like we got to drive 30, 40 minutes and do something else. I'm like, we worthy of being in the nicest place on campus. So that was the idea. It is challenging doing it. It's easy to pay for it. That ain't no big deal, but it is my personality ain't the type of person to want to bug people and ask people to do stuff. So sometimes, I will do stuff and then you may hear me saying I don't want to do it no more because it ain't because it's hard to do it, but it is because you don't feel appreciated. And sometimes, you don't get that. And so, it's been times when I didn't want to do it, but then when people stand up there and talk and ask you to do it again, you feel like it's worth it. In regards to the Spartan Dog, the Facebook group, again, it's for me, I work with a lot of young people here or employ a lot of young people who may not have been given opportunities or may not have other opportunities at other places. So recognizing talent or the good in somebody has been a good trait that I've worked at. And my blessing, I don't have a talent to do music or cut hair or have a skill to fix car. My blessing has been, really kind of like business, seeing something from before somebody else sees it. And then by the time, we 3 minutes in the conversation, I done already saw the end of it. So
Right.
when I was seeing Ron making these posts, again, I noticed that there wasn't anything from the university side or the alumni side. And I just thought he was always insightful, witty, and talented. So I just picked up the phone and told him to do it. And I just said, I'll stand in the background and kind of support you on it. And, again, me being that I don't want all the responsibility of the credit, I ain't gonna lie. I was like that way. If it's anybody got any questions, they won't always ask me. They'll go to Ron. And,
Right.
I think it was cool to empower him to do that. And then him, having a similar story, never playing, getting injured, but now having an impact where people feel like they need to come and talk to him because he got this group and this is where everybody's at. So,
Right.
that, and then not changing, that's just, I just appreciate the people that I grew up with. I only got two sets of friends. Either I know you from California or Michigan State. After
Right.
that, I'd rather call my friends from college or home rather than meet new people, because the new people are probably friends with me because of what I do or what I own. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. And I also forgot to mention that it was actually your idea to even start this podcast. So, from I think I speak for everybody, and I want to say that we definitely appreciate what you do. I really appreciate what you do because we talk so much, and sometimes you vent to me and with your frustration, but you still do it. So, from
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
us,
We need to say we originally said that you was gonna do this. Again,
hey,
I had an idea and I didn't want to. I know the responsibility of trying to doing it, and I was like, Jay, I think you would do good at it because you got a
right,
personality where you cool with everybody. But
right,
again, sometimes you gotta. It's just hard to do stuff. So sometimes you gotta. The hardest part is getting the car rolling. Once it's rolling, somebody can drive it from that point on. So, I've been
right,
banging them out and putting the content out there and hoping that, somebody would step up to do what you're doing now. You know what I mean?
right,
I posted it. I think Dwayne said he'd love to do some, but I haven't spoke to him yet. And then Mill has been working on getting Jim Miller. But again, my point is that it ain't about me. It's about the group. I don't feel
right,
like I need to do all of them. And I
right,
started doing them, and they're fun and I enjoy them, but it's a little bit more challenging to do people that I wasn't around. And so like now, I'm doing Jimmy Ray on Friday, and all week I've been reading this book. I got to get through 282 pages because I wouldn't want to disrespect him and not know the
right.
history. You know what I mean? So some of the people I have to do homework on, and because I'll be probably complaining to you, and
Right.
and so what I will say on my thing is, one thing I learned is that I used to do, them little Fritty Loke CDs where I would take all the songs and put them on there and mail them to all the people, and I did about 5 of them. And I never heard anything from anybody, so I stopped doing them. And then one time we was all together, and I think Ike was asking me why I stopped doing them to other people, and Hawk. And I was like, I never knew y'all enjoyed them because y'all never said nothing. So that's probably why I've done more podcasts, because you don't get a lot of comments on the thing. So you never know if people are enjoying it, if they like it, if they're irritating or what. But I've come to
Right.
realize that we got a group of people that ain't going to give you the feedback, but that doesn't mean that they don't like it. So with encouragement from people like you and Bake and some other people, I've been knocking them out every week.
Okay. Cool. So, where you at now, and what you doing?
I'm in Atlanta, man. I've been here since I graduated. I started coming up here, probably in our second or third year. A friend of mine got drafted, Bob Whitfield got drafted by the Falcons, I think in 92. And rather than going all the way to California, and California didn't have a Freaknik, we started coming up here to Atlanta. So, after graduation, I've been here since 95 and been doing the same exact job since I started in 95.
So, what's your job?
I own, well, originally I was managing, original manager when we started Patchwork Recording Studio. And probably about 9 or 10 years ago, me and one of the engineers got together and we bought the business from Bob. So the last 10 years, or so, we've been owning the business. And then the first 10 or 11 years, I was managing it. So my role really hadn't changed too much. Actually, I always say, I feel for like a coach like D'Antonio. I think that, they work their whole lives coaching, and they actually love what they do. And then they finally get to the pinnacle of what they're doing coaching, and then they probably have very little time to coach. They're spending more time with the parents, with the alumni, with the president, and you don't even have a position group to grow into. So since I've had my daughter, that's kind of how it is for me. I don't even have my office anymore. So I kind of roam around. I meet the clients. I meet the new clients. I get to deal with stuff when issues come up. But, I liked I like doing my job. So,
Right.
it's different, being the head coach, because you don't get D'Antonio ain't in the DB room anymore. You know what I mean? He
Right.
got to pop in and out and do all these interviews. So that's kind of like what I'm doing now. But our business, we are a recording studio. So we record songs, we mix them, we master them, we do digital distribution, and we help people collect money off of the songs that they create. And I think this year we just celebrated our 22nd anniversary.
22 years. So I heard you say that you went to Atlanta right from school. So was that kind of like the plan, or did you have other plans and that came along and you changed them, or how did that go?
No, we actually started our record label in '93 when I was in college. And so most of the people, around probably was getting bombarded with Razzcast CDs and all this stuff. And,
Yeah, I remember
yeah, so
that.
in '93 we started the record label. We started the studio in '95. So I knew what I was coming here to do. I actually was taking 900 level grad school courses, and I did all of the work, did all of the tests. And, I was young and rebellious, and I told the teacher I didn't feel like me writing a 30-page paper would test my knowledge, so I never took the finals. And they
Right.
begged me to take incompletes, and I'd have years to come back and take it. And I'm like, man, I'm going to Atlanta to run this studio. I ain't never coming back. And literally, that's kind of how we hit it. Bob actually drove to East Lansing to pick me up and got arrested and spent the day in jail.
Wow.
And we put my Nissan Sentra on the back of the truck and put all my belongings in the car and in the truck, and we drove back to Atlanta. Yeah.
The Nissan Sentra. You taught me how to drive a stick in that Sentra.
Yeah, man, that Sentra was crucial, man. I didn't get that till my 5th year. We was walking a lot up there. That was my
Definitely.
first car, $1,000 car I bought from Mr. Coleman, Mill's dad.
Now, with going into this venture in the music business, me knowing you, I know that you love music, but the business part of it is something totally different. So was this something that you knew you was going to do and you researched it, or did you just like hit the ground running and learn as you went along?
No, actually, I think it was almost like, and honestly, Bob probably felt like he owed me a position, because originally I'm the one that told them about Raz, but he ended up hooking up with BJ, which was which one of his college classmates from Stanford. So BJ got put in charge of the record label. They basically were trying to find something for me to do. Originally, I was going to manage Raz, but Raz was like, you don't have any experience, and I think I'm going to go with Crowbar Management, which was Coolio's management. So really, the studio was just a throw-in. Bob had the building probably for about 2 years, but they had never did a session, never had any speakers, didn't have our logos and stuff like that. So when I got here, it was kind of like, shit, yeah, I'm going to find something for you to do. You run the studio. And
Right.
I remember he just gave me a book, and he was like, read this book and figure it out. And so, I tried to call other studios to get advice, and nobody would talk to me. That's when I realized that Atlanta was real clicked out. And then I vividly remember, probably like after about 2 weeks, Bob was like, meet me at the studio. We need to have a meeting. And I'm like, man, shit, he about to send me home. And he basically was like, you're doing a good job. Here go the keys to the building. I'm out. And he just left it to me, and I had to figure it out, So
Right.
just really reading and being able to comprehend is what helped me out, and paying attention to what we were doing, trying different things and failing, and trying things and being successful, and then multiplying those successes. But, I had to read, and that, that started in school. I just always read a lot.
Right. Now, with what you do and having the studio, especially there in Atlanta, I'm sure you being a fan of music, you start running into a lot of people who music that you listening to and admire. Were you ever like starstruck, or how did that work out?
I always kept it business, but it was interesting because, graduating at 23 and then probably having about 12 to 13 homeboys playing in the NFL, and Atlanta being the hot spot, it was crazy. I would find myself going in at 6 o'clock in the morning, meaning going home from the club. But I always just kept it business. I think we were so busy that it wasn't any time to kind of to look around as to what we were doing. I mean, our first client was Outkast. And
Right.
while they were in here working with Organized Noise, we were trying to figure out what we need to do. I'm sitting there talking to their business manager, and she's telling me, y'all need these things called session reports. You need runners. You need this. And so while they're in the room working, you want to look around and celebrate that you got them here, but you're
Right.
trying to figure out how to keep this thing going and how to get the next client. I think, there's been a couple times when I made sure that, that I was here when Dr. Dre came, that was huge when Scarface was here. Nas did Ether here. Pimp C did his verse for Big Pimpin'. Ironically, the most person that I was probably intimidated to meet, which I tell everybody, was Regina Bell. I just loved Regina Bell. And
Right.
the first 3 or 4 times she came up here, I wouldn't go in the room to meet her. And then finally one day I just pulled her in my office and I said, man, I've been so intimidated to meet you. You're like one of my favorites. And she gave me a hug. And, we was just at Furman's funeral and I gave you her cell number and told you if something happened to me,
Right.
call Regina because she going to sing at the funeral, man. So we cool now,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it was cool of her to break that. And then, meeting Jay-Z, we've done Beyonce and Alicia Keys and all those people. Those have been cool, man. But I just be looking like what we doing when they leave, what we doing next as opposed to what have we done.
Right. Now you done named off some heavy hitters in the music business, and I know because, like I said, we close, and I've been to your facility and seen the plaques and everything, and know all of the people that you work with. I know what the answer is, but because I know what the answer is, what I'm getting at is, okay, is there anybody who you've wanted to come in there that hasn't? And I know if you had your wish, I know who
Oh,
it would be.
I mean, if we would, I mean, if it was me, it would have been Tupac. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we
Exactly.
got to work on his album, after he passed, so we got a plaque. But yeah, if that's the one, that's the missing one. I mean, we worked on Biggie's album as well, but he wasn't here. So those 2 posthumous projects, we had an opportunity. But you best believe when we ordered the plaque, that's why the biggest plaque in the building is the Tupac plaque, and it's sitting right under the spotlights. You know what I mean? And I got a
Right.
Tupac custom painting in my office, and it's holding up the obituary for Pimp C. So
Right.
yeah, if it was up to me, man, if we, it's funny when we did them sessions because they had to send the reels, but they wouldn't mail them, and they traveled with his material. They had a traveling person that would travel with all this stuff. And I remember them calling me and they was asking me how much the studio was, and I had to tell them the price. But in my mind, I was sitting there and be like, y'all can work here for free. Shit, we doing Tupac, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then we almost, we worked with the guys that when the movie just came out, we didn't get to shoot any film here, but they practiced some of his songs and stuff here. But we didn't make the film because our studio doesn't look like the time period when they were recording. But it was cool meeting L.T. Hutton and the gentleman that was playing Tupac.
So with him not being there, did you, knowing that you actually contributed to the album, how was that? Was that like satisfying? I know it was satisfying, but would it have been better, of course, if he was there?
It would have been crazy if he was here. I would have probably had to let him do what he wanted to, but it would have been cool. But you know what? The biggest thing that I take from it now, after he's passed, it's cool to just work on it. But I actually think that Jazzy Faye produced maybe two of the best songs after he died, that they literally sound like they were in the studio together. So the songs that we worked on here, that Jazzy Faye worked on, man, they sound incredible. I mean, as a person that's been in this for 20 something years, I can hear and tell when somebody's remixing a record because, the person's not rapping to the beat. But the
Right.
songs, the way Jazzy did it, because he produces them and he sings hooks, and it literally sound like they was in a room together. So I'm more proud of the fact that those are some of the. I don't listen to a lot of Tupac records if I know he wasn't there when they made the song because they don't sound right to me. But
Right.
those records are on my Tupac playlist, not because we did them here, because they dope and it sound like that him and Jazzy was in a room together.
Right. Okay. Now your family. Let's talk about your family for a minute. You married,
Right. Yep. I think we
second
just,
time.
yep, second time.
How long you been in the game? And tell
Uh,
us a
uh,
little bit about that.
yeah, so originally I was married. My first wife was Chelsea Brown Daniel. That's her website, chelseabrown.daniel.com. We had been married for 5 years. She was 35 years old when she passed, and
Right.
she had went on a trip to South Africa. They were working with Shirley Ralph. They were doing like a one woman play, and they were working with women who had HIV, and there was a stigma in Africa that if you had the HIV virus, you were just ostracized. So they was kind of going around to different villages to kind of let the women know that, their life ain't over with just the virus. It wasn't even the full blown AIDS. And,
Right.
she was coming back and they were supposed to land, connect in DC and then come to Atlanta. They said she stood up to use the restroom and she fell out, man. She ended up, I guess, a blood clot detached from the back of her leg, blocked her lungs, cut off oxygen to the brain, and they did an emergency landing in Boston. And we was in the hospital 12 days, and she never woke up. And
Right.
she passed on my dad's birthday. And the other issue that I probably struggled with is that I always had a rule of thumb that it was okay to travel, without each other in the States, and
Right.
I would never condone going internationally. And then, even when she had asked me, I was always hustling and working, so I was kind of naive to the dates. I didn't realize that she would be gone for my birthday, because I would have
Right.
been like, nah, you ain't going. But she really wanted to do it, and she went. And unfortunately, man, that's what happened. It was crazy. 35 years old, passed on my dad's birthday, was gone for my birthday, and just never woke up out of that hospital. And so, you know, ended up getting remarried. So I'm married now to Erica, and we have a daughter, Ava, and Ava just
Okay.
turned 4. And the crazy part about that, Erica, I guess we never knew each other, but her divorce was final the same day that Chelsea passed. Her last name was already Daniel,
Right.
and we both Aries, and so it was just we literally got introduced by a former employee who was tired of me talking to her and tired of her talking, and her logic was both you guys had a loss. Both you guys used to being married. Neither one of you want a girlfriend. Neither one of you want to be married or be in a relationship. And y'all keeping me up at night. Y'all should just talk. So that's kind of how that relationship started. And I think now we've been married for 5 years, maybe 6. I mean, the one thing that I learned with Chelsea's death is once that happened is I'm bad with dates. And I think it's probably because I got like a mental block of, between that and my nephew, my 8-year-old nephew passing on Christmas Day. You kind of put a block up. It's like a black period in your mind where you kind of can't access stuff. So I never used to be bad at birthdays and dates and stuff like that. So it's almost kind of like a before she passed and after she passed. So I used to know my wife shoe size, birth date, waist size, just numbers and all that stuff.
Right.
But when all that happened, man, I guess it's a part of your brain that kind of block things off. So dates and stuff just get blurry. Maybe it's because I think if I get back too close to that date, it'll bring up other memories. I hadn't really figured it out, but I noticed that, I got bad at, certain things. You know what I mean? I don't know
Right.
what that was about. Yeah.
Now you mentioned your daughter, so I think it's a couple interesting things about you and your daughter. For one, anybody who's never met her, I feel like knows her because you are so proud of her, and you just post videos all the time, and you spend so much time with her, and she is very important to you. I know, but at one point, like you wasn't really sure about having kids, and I remember before your daughter got here, you was telling me about a conversation that you had with Minister Farrakhan, and he kind of was, telling you that, that was something that you needed to do, and I know how highly you respect him. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, my style or my mentality is like I always felt like, I would meet people who, men and women, who were trying to have kids and they wanted to have kids and they had a desire. I was kind of waiting for the feeling to hit me. Like I always just
Right.
was like, I'm cool if I don't. I'm cool if I'm due. I'm not actively trying to. And I kind of just thought I wasn't going to ever have any kids. My friends used to joke and be like, can you even get somebody pregnant? But yeah, he came here and he's been here several times. And this particular run, I think he was here for like 3 or 4 days. And, I never sit in the studio, but I sat in the studio with his ass for about 8 or 9 hours right next to him. And he just was telling me some incredible stories. And yeah, and he made the comment that, it's other less successful or whatever black men that are having all these kids, and the people like you are the ones that need to have kids because, you got knowledge and information that you can be passing along that'll, go through generations or whatever. And now, I ain't went out and try to have no kid because he told me, but yeah, it was ironic. I remember he said it, and then when he came back, I had my wife and daughter come up here, and he met
Right.
my wife and daughter, and I reminded him of the story, and he just started smiling and gave me a hug. Now he wanted me to have 3 or 4 other kids, but I wouldn't have the surgery after Ava was 3 months old, so that ain't
Right.
happening. But I mean, I get what he's saying, that, you know, now having a daughter and stuff like that, and I've always been one to try to share knowledge, and I probably share so much that people don't want to hear from me, but she don't tell me no. So I get a chance to kind of put a lot of things into her, which is really cool.
Right. Now, the one thing about it is, I became a parent when I was 20, and a lot of, like you said, a lot of people plan to have kids after they get married. I wasn't expecting my kid, and I was kind of nervous. But the one thing I always tell people is that if when you have a kid, if something in you don't change or you don't feel a change in yourself, I feel like something is wrong with you.
Right.
And I've noticed, not that you're a different person, but I've noticed a change in you since you had your daughter. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a change after my wife passed, and some relationships I've had to call and apologize to people because you just go through a period where you ain't really who you are. I mean, you don't really know who you are and what you're doing. And so, when you're in a relationship, friendships as well with people, and one of the people in the relationship change, it puts strains on things. And then, there's things that you say to people that, you may have been feeling something at a time that you wish you didn't say.
Right.
Having the baby, to me, I always say it's like, man, I don't really, and it's puzzling to me when people be like, I can't wait till they start sleeping through the night or walking so I can get back to my old life or start going back and doing the old things. And I don't, in my opinion, I think that, your wife in that relationship ain't never going to be the same. You ain't going to have the same life. It just changes. I mean, I can't understand somebody that's hoping the baby go to sleep so they can go back out to the club. I don't have
Right.
the desire to go back to
Right.
the club.
Right.
Your life should change. You know what I mean? You're gonna be spending more time with your kids, and you still got to do your job, and hopefully you're gonna be healthy, so you're gonna work out a little bit. But I never thought it was gonna go back to anything. I mean, I just
Right.
realized the magnitude of it and was like, this is what it's gonna be. It's gonna change and be different in the future, but I'm not rushing my daughter along to do anything so that I can get back to do what I was doing. I just put everything down. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so, my order is, which is always helpful, is, my wife is the most important person. Then
Right.
it's my daughter. Then it's my mom. And so it's helpful where, everybody has that understanding that, kids, like they say, when you marry, don't let nothing come in between you. So sometimes you see a change where, people act like they married to their kid, or the wife is married to the kid, and then the marriage relationship suffers. We kind of got our priorities in order. But yeah, definitely I've changed. Shit, I grew up. You know what I mean? I got to make,
Right.
now I'm conscious about what I'm doing. And a lot of times when I leave, the last thing my wife will say, just make sure you come back home.
Right.
That ain't nobody worried about all the other stuff that, you used to do as a kid. It's more so like, make sure you bring your ass back home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the last thing about your daughter is so I remember, you came up for homecoming last year, and of course you brought your family with you. So when you got here, I was kind of like your chauffeur, driving you around. And, we talk all the time, and I know, you don't think I'll be listening, but I hear everything that you say. So one thing that was interesting to me that you said, it was interesting and it meant a lot to me at the same time, was that, we was running around, and it so happened that I dropped your wife off to get something to eat, and I dropped you off to get something to eat. And it was just me and Ava. So when you got back in the car, you was like, man, like, that's kind of strange. Like, I ain't never, ever left my daughter with nobody.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was, like I said, that was interesting. And, it made me feel good at the same time. So can you kind of talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit?
definitely. I tell people now, she's 4. We've never had a babysitter. I mean, we'll have Erica's mom come in town or my mom, but we've never employed a babysitter.
Right.
You make sacrifices for your kids. So it's like my wife stopped working so she can be there, and I'm going to be there every night or she going to be there. And
Right.
I mean, it wasn't nothing to think. I remember when I said it because it hit me, and I was just like, I ain't really that type of person to be that trustworthy to be dropping my kid off or going on the neighborhood saying anybody can watch my kid. I need to do this. I don't, man. I'm going to meet the teachers. I'm going to
Right.
meet the gym teacher. I'm there for everything. We there for everything. We let her be, but yeah, it was conscious when it happened. I was like, shit, I must be really comfortable with Jay because Erica ain't about to leave her with nobody, and I damn sure ain't either. And I still hadn't really
Right.
done it since then, to just that's a prized possession, man. You just can't be. It's that real for me. I done lost somebody and lost a nephew, so
Right.
it's that real to me that I'm conscious of everything that we doing about her. And yeah, I hadn't done that, and I hadn't done it since then. So yeah, I
Right.
mean, I trust you. I know I watched you raise your son, and I watch how you are with your grandkids, and I talk to you about 17 times a week. So
Right.
you know how I am, and it's it's
Right.
something about where some people, if they're watching your kid, they're gonna do what they want to do. They're not gonna be considerate of your parenting style or
Right.
not do something because you wouldn't do it, and I wasn't worried about that with you. You kind of know how I am, and even if
Right.
it's a decision that you would normally make, you'd be like, well, he ain't gonna want me to do this, so you just won't do it. So yeah, I was way
Right.
comfortable with you doing that and
Okay.
driving us around. Shit, that was big.
All right, now let's go back to where you were originally from.
From Carson, California, which is in Los Angeles. We about 12 miles south of downtown LA. So yeah, I'm from LA, from Carson.
And where did you go to high school?
I went to school at Banning High School, which is in Wilmington. We had 2 schools, one Carson High School and one Banning. So half of Carson went to one and half went to the other.
Right.
Two way back when, 2 national powerhouses, used to be ranked number 1 and 2 in the nation, and we'd send 13 people D1 every year, 9, 12, 13, 15, 8, 7, 6. We was a football factory. Every major college coach came to the to the school, back in the days.
Right. So at what point in high school did you feel like you actually had a chance, to go to college and play?
What was weird for me is that, so even Bob, was the number 1 lineman in the country. He played JV his 10th grade year. We never had the type of program where people can come in and make varsity. So me and one other guy, a quarterback, we didn't play JVs or B football. We got put on varsity. So the first year I was playing receiver, and man, I couldn't get on the field, and So I started punting. I'm just punting the ball. And then the second year, I was playing receiver again, and I would get in when we was blocking. I mean, when we was running, and then the senior dude would always stay on the field, wouldn't come off when the pass play. So I just watched. I'm like, we're a running team, man. You know what I mean? And all of our DBs are getting scholarships, and I feel like I'm better than them. You know what I mean? So I'm switching to defense. So my 12th grade year, I switched over to defense, and really when I saw Bob get his scholarship, I'm like, man, I've been playing with him since kindergarten, man, and he ain't about to leave me. And, a bunch of my other homeboys was getting scholarships. So I just figured if I switched over and played free safety, I can get up out of here because I watched other people doing it. The challenge was, I had never really played defense, and then I messed around and tried to play summer league basketball before my senior year, and I tore the ligaments in my knee. And so that was the problem. So the whole summer I couldn't really practice, couldn't participate in passing league or nothing like that. And then I just remember the first play, the coach was like, well, you injured is better than this other dude we got. Just go out there and figure out where the ball going. And so that's kind of like what I did. And, my situation, I just didn't feel like, my parents was about to pay for me to go to school. So I made a business decision to play that whole senior year with the ligaments torn and never missing a game and never missing a sprint in practice. And I just was like, man, whenever I go to school, I'm gonna make them pay for it. And the funny thing is, I think I only took 3 of my trips because our little counselor was saying that when you go on your next trip to Cal, they asking, can they look at your knee? And he was like, man, all these recruiters run in the same circle. If they find out something wrong with your knee, they're gonna tell the other people and you ain't gonna have no scholarship. So that's why I canceled my other trips and ended up signing with Michigan State. And then I got up there and ran around for a week, got an interview with Jack Ebling, and then I told them my knee was hurting. And they looked at it and was like, Lord, you got arthritis, you got degenerative bone on bone. And it was, most people would get scoped and be back in 2 weeks. Y'all joked on me forever. I got scoped and missed the whole season because it was so bad they had to drill down in the bones to make blood come up to kind of form a barrier where there was no cartilage at. So I just played through it, man, and made a business decision that I wanted to go to school that bad that I suffered through the pain. And once I got there, I let them pay for it at Michigan State, man.
Right. So you say you took 3 of your visits. Where else did you visit?
Man, I went to Iowa State because one of our DBs 2 years before that had went there. I went to Oregon, and then I went to Michigan State, and I think I was going to go to Illinois and Syracuse or Cal. You know the story. I mean, for me, I think, and we had another Banning High School guy that played DB at Oregon, and I just always liked the Duck in their uniform way back then. And I usually always make all these analogies, and I used to be like, when I was in junior high, I was be like, man, I'm hoping I'm good enough to play at Banning High School. And then I got there, and then I was like, I'm good enough to go to college. And I was like, I used to tell people, I said, I don't care if Jesus Christ and the 7 disciples recruited me, I'm going to Oregon. That's where I want to go. That's where I'm going. And then it came to reality. That was the best recruiting trip I had. They had my jersey, they had my name in the scoreboard. They was telling me I was going to play. And the worst trip was Michigan State. I mean, shit, y'all had me out there in the winter. The kids was on school break. Todd Murray had me drinking out of a bong and walking on ice. And then when I went in the coach's office, GP didn't know my name. And I remember Pat Moore was like, oh, he knows you. He really wants you. And I mean, now looking back at it, our recruiting coordinator went to Eastern Michigan. He was pumping up Michigan State, and being 18 years old, man, you getting that stuff pushed in front of you. And I always say now when I think about it, I think he probably got paid to send me there. And, you know what I mean? So I went there and I hated it. And, because you was with me. I was trying to transfer. It got to the point where I called Oregon, and I didn't know the rules that they had to call the coach once you called. So they called GP and told them that I contacted him, and I missed practice and proceeded to have to run about 40-40s, and GP basically got on the phone with my mom and tried to cut me a deal and was like, he's not supposed to like it. We on quarters. It ain't no girls here. We play 2 games before the students get here. I tell you what, Miss Daniel, if he doesn't like it after the first quarter when the students get on campus, we'll grant his release. And then, man, if y'all don't know me, I'm a girl hound. When them girls came from Flint and Detroit, shit, man, I wasn't transferring nowhere, man. I was good to go. Once them girls came on campus, man, and I built relationships with the people on the team. I was like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm just going to stay up here. And I always say I'm so thankful that I stayed, because I would have played earlier in Oregon. The first year I redshirted because of the knee. The second year I wasn't good enough to get on the field, but my third year I was running with the twos. And if I would have played at Oregon, man, I probably would have hit somebody. And, with my injury, I had narrowing of the spine between C3 and 3-4. And they was like, you 1 hit away from losing motion on the whole left side of your body. So, the fact that they caught it, I just always be thankful when I'm watching games that if I would have been out there in Oregon, I probably would have been playing, and I probably be handicapped, man. So I'm thankful that they caught it, man. But yeah, I was on Oregon before they became popular. That was my school. That's where I wanted to go.
I'm a person who believes that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. But listening to you talk, I just don't understand how you picked Michigan State over Oregon. So can you tell me, like, what made you pick Michigan State when Oregon was your favorite? You had a bad visit at Michigan State. You ain't never seen snow before. I mean, pretty much everything that could be wrong with Michigan State was wrong.
In our school, we basically, like I said, man, we Jamel Holloway, they played for Oklahoma. He went to my school. And, we, like I said, his year, we probably sent 15 people D1 to big school. So we literally had a recruiting coordinator that used to cut up our tape, cut up our clippings, send them around to all the schools, and everybody came there. It's nothing wrong with it. I just think at this point, now that I look at it, when you have an older gentleman that's been there for a decade and he's dealing with these universities, they do have influence of where you gonna go. I mean, I didn't know where Michigan State was. He used to hand me the brochures. Look at Sparty, Blake Ezor, they're in Hawaii. Look at this Big Ten ring. Look at the basketball team. That's what he was pushing. And so, they let you choose, but you can be influenced. And everything was Big Ten. I didn't know what the Big Ten was, man. I mean, I didn't have any pants my senior year. We wouldn't practice in the rain. We never played a game in the rain. I walked around with shorts all year. So I was just naive to it. And, I don't know what it was. It was the worst trip I ever been on. And the dude didn't know my name. And so, and the other trip was the best trip I had ever been on. And as a young 18-year-old, I was influenced and guided and steered to go somewhere else, and I fell for it. Yeah. Right. That's why, like, now, when my nephew came through, he went on a scholarship to Arizona. It was important for me to take the trip with him, and it's important, like I tell people with these kids, it's important for the parents to be involved because, man, 18-year-old kids don't want to disappoint people. And if you get an indication that somebody's going to be happy that you choose this, you probably going to do it.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about, you was talking how you came in and you got scoped. I injured my knee my senior year in high school. So I wound up having a surgery my senior year. And then I had a surgery when I first got here during camp, like after the sprint test that was just just terrible. So, that's kind of like where our journey started, because we were both injured. So, we kind of did rehab together. We worked out together. I wasn't necessarily in the dorm, so I wasn't there for, to get to know you then, but I was actually there. That's kind of where our bond started. And then I remember the day that you found out that you wouldn't be able to play anymore.
Right.
And I know, like, when I hurt my knee, even though they didn't tell me that I could never play again, I was crushed. I went through like a little depression, even though I would never let anybody see it. I kind of went through with it, because sports where I'm from in Flint was big,
Right.
and I think most athletes when they enter college, they have aspirations of playing professional. So my question to you is when that happened, first of all, did you have high aspirations of going to the next level, or were you just trying to use college for what it was to get your degree? And how did that affect you when you actually were told that you couldn't play anymore?
My idea, like I said, in junior high, I was hoping to be good enough to play at high school. And then when I was in
Right.
high school, I was hoping enough to be good enough to play in college. And then when I was in college, I would have hoped I would have been good enough to play at the next level because I was always competing with people that made it to that next level.
Right.
Now, that shit was horrible. Like, I mean, it was the worst. I mean, I literally, when we was in camp, I just wanted to play. And then I was
Right.
like, I remember, I was number 26, Ricardo was 25, so we was right next to each other. And I was like, nigga, I'm playing this year. I'm getting on the field. I don't care if I got to break my neck. I'm getting on this
Right.
field. And I remember the last person I hit, I think they had moved me like the strong safety, and they threw a little a pass out in the flats to Mitch Lyons. I blew him up. Man, I got back, man, my shit was hurting so bad. And I was like, man, the coaches was, that's what I'm talking about, and blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
man, my shoulder was hurting. So it, wasn't no big deal. And then really I'm gonna give you the long version. The crazy part is that when we were young, they used to make me travel. Felino never used to let me play on the scout team, so I used to just be at practice for 2 hours on the knee. And he would be like, I don't want you to learn any bad habits. And then he would make me travel, and I knew I wasn't playing. And it was 1 week. Y'all had told me these stories about Northwestern, about how cold it's going to be, man, and that wind. And I'm like, shit. And it was a big party on campus. And I had never done this. And mind you, I played my whole 12th grade year with my ligaments torn. I said, man,
Right.
I'm about to act like I'm hurt, man, because I don't want to go to the game. All y'all stand. So I act like I was hurt. And I told them my neck was hurt. And they kind of looked at it. Actually, I think I did get hurt. I was warming up. When we used to play at home, you used to have all the players suited, 100 people. When you used to go on the road, you didn't have as many. So us redshirt people would have crash test tummies. We was playing at Ohio State. Myron was hyped as hell. I'm running through the little tackle dummy thing, and he blew me up. We got back to school. I'm telling them I'm hurt. Coach Wynn was like, how the fuck you hurt? You ain't play. I'm like, Coach, I got hurt in the warm-ups. You're like, you got hurt in the warm-ups? Man, what the fuck you talking about, man? So I'm like, man, my neck hurt. And so they looked at it, and then they kind of saw something, and then, so I didn't go. And then what I did learn is practice was much harder when you was hurt. And they had me running around the field riding that bike, and I'm like, nigga, I ain't hurt. I was just playing, put me on. And then they was like, nah, they helped me out. And so anyway, I think we went to the spring, and I remember I was at home in L.A., and they called me, and they was like, we want you to go up to UCLA, the hospital, and do an MRI on your neck. And it was like, we think, we see something on the film, but we think you move. So I did an MRI there, came back, and they made me go to the one at Michigan State. Then meanwhile, I was practicing. I'm like, my shit hurt. I put a little neck roll on there. I changed helmets. And I was going to see a spine specialist, and they was rolling stuff up and down my back. And I'm like, I'm having to go to chiropractic because my back kept shifting and all this stuff. And then I remember one morning, like at 6:30, they picked me up to go see this specialist. And they just was rolling some prickly thing up and down my spine. And then they was looking and they was talking. And I was half asleep. And the doctor was like, yeah, I'm going to recommend that you don't play anymore. I looked up. I'm like, what? You recommend that? And he said, actually, I'm going to tell you, son, I'm sorry. Your career is over. You'll never play football again. Man, I start just crying. It was like, you work that damn hard to get out there and do all that stuff in the summer and lift weights. And, me, man, I'm like, put me on the field so I can get more girls. And I'm like, man, I ain't even there. I came all the way out here, man, and I ain't even going to play. And then the thing about the injury was hard because I remember when I came back to the dorm and was telling y'all, it was odd because it wasn't an injury that people could see that I was hurt. Like I wasn't in a boot. I didn't tear my knee. It was your spine. So you look fine. And I was like, probably until my wife passed and my nephew, that was probably like the biggest challenge or obstacle that I had ever been through. I mean, it just seemed like a waste. I was like, man, I came all the way out here to do this shit. The first 2 years I couldn't get on the field. I'm finally about to get a chance to play, and y'all on this, you know what I mean? So that was the biggest thing that I ever dealt with at that particular time. And then it was like all my friends was on the team. So when y'all would go to practice, it's like, man. And then it's like, I don't know if people ever know, when you hurt, you don't even really feel a part of the team. You feel like you ain't appropriate. You don't need to be around there and all this stuff. So that was the worst shit ever. To be like, I mean, that's who I was. I'm from California, so I don't know anybody from Michigan or the Midwest. I don't have any relationships with anybody from high school. I don't have no family out there. So all my friends is gone over here, and I'm sitting in the dorm like, man, I can't play no more. You know, and it was just abrupt. So it sucked. And I think I said before, I just acted up after that. You know, they asked me, did I want to coach and help out? And I just was like, man, y'all going to still give me my scholarship. Y'all going to still give me tickets to the game. I can go to train table and I don't have to come over here. Nigga, hell no, I don't want to coach. I ain't getting this free work out of me. So, you know, one of the benefits of it is that it allowed me to take other classes in the day. Like I always wanted to take a Black history class, but they always was unavailable because we had to, you know, work. And so it allowed me to take classes that I wanted to take in the middle of the day. And then I had a little job at DPS, and then I started meeting some regular students and stuff like that. But that shit sucked, man. You know what I mean? It just sucked. I mean, so yeah, I dealt with it and you know, and graduated and made the best of it. But that was the worst.
Okay. Now, do you got a funny Michigan State story that I know you got a lot of them, but do you have one that always sticks out that you would like to share besides you blaming me for getting kicked out of the Duffy?
Nah, you know, the thing that I don't know what it was about, you know, like GP, like I said before when I was talking about it, I think they just thought that I had a California attitude. And basically, you know, I wasn't one of those players that if you said I wasn't playing, that I was going to drop off the team. I'm be like, well, as long as you're paying for school, it is what it is. And my attitude was, I'm going to meet every test. I'm going to meet every sprint. I'm going to meet every weightlifting thing. And I'm going to try to practice. And if you want to put me in, shit, then I'm going to play. But I ain't going to be mad because you ain't. So for whatever reason, GP, I don't know, maybe because I used to wear earrings and maybe he never really wanted me to be there, but that motherfucker used to cuss me out all the time. And so one time, you know, we at the Kellogg Center, and I think Stan and D-Bot was my suite mate. They wasn't even staying with me. And, you know, I think Mill went down, and then I went down, and I'm in line, you know, before GP come. And I think Chris was the manager. So Chris is like, where's Calendar at? I'm like, D-Bot down here, shit. I don't know. He ain't my roommate. I banged on the door before I left, and GP walks in, and he sees him talking to me. What the fuck did he do now? You just got down here, motherfucker. I'm so sick and fucking tired of your ass. This is the last fucking game you'll be suiting up for. Don't be looking for your name on the list. Turn in your goddamn sweatsuit and get the fuck out my face. And I'm like, Coach, and he ain't never say nothing about Stan, and I just like, man, he cussed me out, you know, like I said, when, you know, the story with you went in there complaining about your summer job and, you know, and I guess he just thought I used to smirk and laugh a lot, but I was never the type of person where you gonna cuss me out and I'm gonna get down about it. I just be like, man, you look silly turning red. And, you know, and then, you know, like I said on the other one, he didn't want to sign my scholarship when I went in there. And, you know, he was like, man, you know, Mill's a good guy. You using his name. You've been using us. You should be ashamed and blah, blah. You know, my experience with him was just way different than what I'm learning that other people had these relationships on these podcasts. And it was from the day that I met him, he didn't know my name. And when he did talk to me, all he was doing was cussing me out. And you know, I didn't really trip off of it, but you know, that was my thing. So I used to try to make sure, you know, wasn't nobody really saying nothing to me when he walked by, because he would never ask what the conversation was about. He just would just cuss me out, man. So, yeah, you know. So, you know, it's weird now when I meet the new coaches, you know, Coach Staten and D'Antonio and some of the other coaches that I have met. It's weird for me to see the relationship that they have with the players, because they seem such like cool coaches. And it's like, back then I used to wonder, what does GP listen to in his car? What type of music? And what does, I used to just wonder.
Right.
These dudes is like cool. So it's been cool doing these podcasts to hear other players say that they did have a good relationship with him, like a personal relationship. I'm not saying my relationship was bad, but I just
Right.
got cussed out and used to be like, don't wear no fucking earrings. And I used to have my earrings in, and you're going to be a girl. The next thing you're going to be switching. You're going to be wearing a dress, and he just used to catch me,
Right.
man. He just go off on us or whatever. So I didn't never have like that personal relationship with him. That's why when I was asking Mill, it was so puzzling to me when he said he never got cussed out, because I got cussed out all the time. And I didn't, and most of the time I didn't even do anything. You know what I mean?
So you thought everybody got the treatment that you got, pretty much.
Yeah, I thought that was normal. Cause shit. And when Ricardo said he didn't get cussed out, I was tripping off of that. I just thought GP cussed everybody out. But I guess, for whatever reason, man, he just used to let me have it. Maybe if I would have started playing, I would have got the pats on the back. But, I didn't ever make it on the field before I got injured.
Well, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in there, and I think part of it is one of the things is when you came along, some people you can just see as leaders, and people follow them. So when you came and you had earrings in both ears, some people had earrings in one ear, some that hadn't really caught on here yet, and GP had a rule against that. So, once people start seeing you, I remember I got my earpiece. A lot of us, start getting our ear pierced. So I think personally that he saw the influence that you had on other people. And, he thought that because he didn't really know you, he thought that might affect his team, is what I think. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I was thinking, why you didn't tell me that a long time ago?
Because I honestly didn't know he was cussing you out like that.
Man, shit, please. I remember that next week, man, we was going like the Notre Dame, man. They used to put the list of the traveling squad, and I was going to check the list, and I knew I wasn't on it, and I was on there, and I said, okay, well, I guess he just cussed you out, and it don't mean nothing, but I still was on the list to travel.
All right. Not all important question. Spartan Dawg. Tell me what that means to you.
Well, to me, it's kind of like, I always say my Michigan State's daddy is Myron. Myron used to, when they go out of town, he used to let me drive his car. He used to pick me up, stay in his apartment and all this stuff. And, I think it's kind of like, I always say, like, I'm going a roundabout way, but it's knowing rules to the game. Like, it's certain rules to, we are in a relationship. We homeboys. It's certain rules as far as being homeboys or being Spartan Dogs. It's certain things that, one of the things I always liked about our group is that we always let everybody be everybody. We had so many different characteristics. And when somebody would do something crazy, we'd be like, shit, well, you know how Glove is. You know how Drac is. You know how Boo Bell is. He just tripping. You know how Percy is or whatever. So it was like, it was cool just to let everybody be everybody. And, we could judge everybody, but we didn't let anybody else judge us, and you couldn't talk about us. We can talk about each other, but you better not say nothing. So my thing is kind of like just knowing the rules and just having people that you can count on. Like I said before, I think that, between you and I named a couple other people, but y'all probably saved my life. Literally. Like, I'd be like, they just surrounded me, and if I was about to fall in this hole, they refused to let me go in that hole. You know what I mean? And for me, being from California, I talk to y'all more than my family and my brothers. So when people say it's like a band of brothers, I give them that. It's just me. It's just being able to count on people. And like I say, I may not know every person, but I know what type of person they are if they came through our program. And I always say, like, I'm reading this book, that Jimmy Ray story, and it's just like the type of people that they were recruiting. It reminded us of our group. We were the group that something was wrong with us. We might didn't pass a test. We might have got injured or something was wrong with us. and they gave us a chance. And we knew, like, and I've been watching that Last Chance U, we didn't have no other places to go. And, you know,
Right.
we faced a lot of obstacles where we could have quit, we could have flunked out, we could have given up, we could have, you know, had a kid and dropped out and stuff like that. So just the level of respect that I have for people that went through that program, it's like a bonding lifetime thing. So for me, I just, like, you know, I keep telling them that, you know, hashtag I want to use is We Connected. So it's
Right.
like it's so many generations of us that can have a conversation because of the experiences we had at that school. And reading that book, Jay, it's like I got more pride in our university. I always loved it. Everything I got is green. But reading the
Right.
fact that, you know, we had the first black quarterback to ever play in the NFL, that was in 65. But
Right.
we had one in 53. And then
Right.
23 black people on the team in a time where you couldn't even go to school at the ACC or the SEC. It's kind of like I'm learning more stuff about the university. I already was in love with it and proud of, you know, us and the Spartan Dogs and stuff like that. But just learning that's what's flowing through that university makes me even prouder. So Spartan Dogs to me is, if I summed it up in one word, it'd be family and a lifetime bond and people that I can count on. Like I ain't worried about y'all. I don't care what y'all doing. I tell all they wives. I mean, you can say
Right.
what you want to say. You can tell them to do something, but if I call them, they're going to stop what they're going to do and they're going to make sure we straight. It's rules to the game. And as long as
Right.
all the people that's in it recognize the rules to the game, then we can stay connected forever.
Right. And I actually was thinking about it too. One thing that I forgot to mention is that I think the other thing that GP had an issue with was that he knew you was the mind boggler.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about I don't think he knew, and maybe he did know.
I think somebody knew, and probably he might have knew himself, but I think somebody put him up on that.
Yeah. So,
Because
Jay,
like I
yeah.
said, everybody knew, you know, how you were. You have never been a person since I've known you, and I told you many times that, you know, me and you will never have a problem, because I know that you always gonna be straight up, which is hard for a lot of people to do.
Right. Yeah. So,
You know,
what Jay
you
talking about it, you know, I used to have an issue. I love music. And, you know, we used to have to go to that weight room and be in there early, and they would always be playing these rock songs and stuff like that. And so, you know, one night, yep, if y'all didn't know now, Coach Bagger, you know now, one night I went over there about 2:30 in the morning. I made about 100 copies of this note that I wrote. I was like, this team has 105 people, 77% of them are black people, such and such is this and whatever. People use music to be motivated and get going in the morning. We need to hear a portion of music that represent what we listen to. We don't want to hear all that rock and roll stuff every morning. So y'all need to put something on here or either turn. And they got mad. And I remember they called me in the office and asked me, Pat Morris asked me, did I write that letter? Man, I was like, nah, coach, I ain't do nothing like that. And then that's when they turned all the music off everywhere. And then, you know, we had other issues where, you know, I know a lot of people in my high school was surprised that I went to Michigan State because, you know, I'm just prideful in our race, what we do as black people. So I never got no problem with other races or nothing like that. Just loving my own probably
right.
came out. So if you said they probably did know. I mean, I guess, you know, I always just said what I had to say. But yeah, I wrote that letter, man, and they was hot and they was trying to figure out who did it. And I think Preston might have let me in to put him in the locker room, man, at 2:30 in the morning. And they
Well,
was,
you had them posted everywhere, didn't you?
yeah,
Not
I
just
put
in the
them on the
locker room.
locker and the coaches everywhere. And so they didn't really like that, man. So you know what? I didn't even think about that. I forgot about that. That might have had something to do with it. And I was probably causing problems. And, you know, I was one of them people that wasn't playing, and I would still be trying to lead. You know, I'm going to get up and want to speak. I'm the freshman that ain't playing nothing. And when it's halftime, I want to talk. You want a certain person to be a leader, but that ain't their characteristic, and they don't want to do it. And it's dead silent in there. So I'm the one that's going, you know, hey, let's get spatted up. Let's tuck our jerseys up. You need to tuck your sleeves in. You need to look sweet. And yeah, I mean, I wish I would have had the opportunity to lead a little bit more, but you know, they chose the leaders on the field, and I wasn't one of them people. So yeah, maybe that. Like I said, it's cool to have this conversation. I never really put my finger on it. I just figure he ain't really care for me too much.
I think that of course, like I said, you ain't gonna pound your chest and take credit, but I think personally, I feel like you led a lot more than you probably realized. Because I know from our conversations, like like I said, I hear everything that you say. Like I myself used to have a problem, with speaking up, and because I'm just a laid back person. But as I got older, I saw a need, to do that, and that was because of you, pretty much. So, you know, it is what it is. So, how can if people want to follow you, reach you, see what's going on, how can they do that?
Man, my I got an alter ego, so my business is all my little social media is the Curtis at Patchwork. I mean, no, I'm saying it's Curtis Daniel on Facebook and whatever, and then my personal is the Fritty Loke. So that's kind of where I post stuff. So if you on my Curtis Facebook, you ain't really seeing too much but business stuff. The Fritty Loke is where I'm at, and then as I always say, if anybody, people always got people that's interested in the music industry, whether they playing or writing or producing or doing something. If anybody got any family members or kids or something like that, they got any questions before they run out there and get robbed, feel free to have them call me or email me. I don't want any money from any Spartan Dogs, but I do want to
Right,
help people so they don't get ripped off.
right.
So yeah, and then my email is just curtis@patchwork.com.
Okay. Well, once again, like, I want to tell you that we definitely appreciate you and the work that you do, even though, you don't hear it a lot. And honestly, I don't even feel like, that's something that you be wanting or needing, but, it feel good to know that you appreciate it. So, we definitely appreciate you. I definitely appreciate you,
Yeah,
the
I
friendship.
think, Jay, I always call you and I be laughing. I tell my wife because I be like, I know I probably be sometimes talking over Jay head. I be talking to you about 200,000 numbers and deals and everything. But, always when I tell you, I be like, I need to check my temperature, because I'm kind of like, I'm going 200,000 miles an hour and you're a good gauge of me to make sure that I ain't offending people or saying something a certain way. You know what I mean? Because I just want to
Right.
say what I want to say. So a lot of times I'm calling you was like, look, man, I'm about to do this. Now, am I about to step on somebody's toes or whatever?
Right.
So, I think, like I keep saying, I see the talents in everybody. And it's been a blessing to have this 20 something year relationship with you because I could, you like one of my checks and balances. I call you, I call Bake, I call you all the time. And so I appreciate that. And then, I appreciate you, saying what you said at the beginning and saying what you said at the end. And that'll kind of put a little battery in my back to kind of keep things going. And then, hopefully some other people will do something. I'll say this, like I said, Sean keeps saying that God chose me to do this. I'm telling y'all that God told me that one of y'all need to step up and do some of these too. All right.
Right. Well, I'm gonna tell you that I actually felt obligated to do your story, and if you had chose somebody else to do it, I probably would have felt some kind of way.
I mean, it's cool to feel some kind of way long as you tell me. You know what I mean? Just tell me shit. It's all good.
No,
Nah, but that's why I was
that's
telling Erica, I said, could nobody really else do it? I said, Jay, the only one
right.
that know everything. So, I was surprised you asked me to do it. So I never thought about doing me. And I was like, okay, well, shit, that makes sense. Jay will be the perfect person to do it because he the only one that know everything.
Well, like I told you, I always listen to the podcast because I work at night, so I had time to listen to them, and I listened to all of them. And the last one that I listened to was Travis's, and his story, hit me so much that I actually text you, you know what I'm saying, and told you that I'm like, this dude, like, this need to be a movie.
Yeah,
And
we
then,
we we discussing that, and then, real quick, I know we going on as long, but so one of the cool things about Jay is like so. Jay listens well to music and everything. I watched them once and move on. So even, way back when, you the one that told me that clip of Myron. You was like, you need to cut that up in a 1-minute clip. And I was like, you trying to make me work, Jay. I'm not trying to do all of that stuff. So it was interesting to see the response. And then again, I thought Travis's podcast, to me, it was like a mental jar. He's sharp. And,
Right.
you kind of be mentally, you got to be on it. And then you called me and you pointed that out. And then I told him about it and he never thought about it. So we're going to talk about it when he comes. That's your blessing. You listen well. So even when there's a death or somebody's going through stuff, people feel comfortable talking to you because you actually listen and don't judge. So a lot of people probably call you to kind of talk about things like that. But yeah, the podcast, Jay pushed me, and the clips and stuff like that. There's more I could be doing, and he be on me about it. But, give credit what credit is due. He's the one that told me he had never heard anybody explain it how Myron did. And he's like, you need to cut it up into a minute clip. And it took me a few weeks because I ain't want to do it. I'm trying not to work. But, I'll start plucking some of the stuff from the other ones as Jay tells me need be. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of what you say is coming out in the work. So that's why I just said I tried to give it to you the first time to let you do it because I thought you would do well at it.
Well, I think you've been doing an amazing job. I definitely had a ball with this conversation. To me, it's just like any other conversation that we have. Is just, we just I just feel like I'm enlightening other people to what I already know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, again, it's been wonderful. I definitely appreciate you. I got love to you until I ain't no longer here.
Yep, and we'll talk about 6 more times a day, right?
Right. Definitely.
All right.
Definitely. All right, dog. I'll holler at you later.
Right.
Yep.